People say that truth brings peace, but sometimes the truth arrives like a quiet storm, destroying everything you ever believed about your own life. I learned this on a cold night, the night my aunt called me into her room and closed the door behind us. Her hands were shaking, her voice was trembling, and her eyes, they looked at me with a kind of sadness I had never seen before. I remember she said softly, "You are old enough now. You deserve to know the truth." I didn't understand. What truth? Why that tone? Why that fear? I thought maybe she was sick, maybe she was worried about something, maybe she needed help. I had no idea that her next words would completely change the meaning of my past, my childhood, and my entire place in the family. For 30 years I believed I knew who I was. I believed I knew where I came from. I believed the stories my family told me, the memories they repeated, the traditions they passed on. But that night, in that dimly lit room, everything I ever trusted slipped away like sand. I didn't know that my entire life had been built on a carefully guarded secret, a secret carried by almost every adult around me except me, a secret that shaped every smile, every silence, every distance, every strange moment I brushed aside as family behavior. That night, as the rain tapped softly on the windows, my aunt finally broke the silence that had lived in my home for decades, and when she finished speaking, I couldn't breathe. I couldn't speak. I just sat there, staring at her, feeling like the ground beneath me had disappeared. People talk about heartbreak as if it only happens in love, but there is a different kind of heartbreak, the kind that comes from realizing the people you trusted the most were hiding the one truth that defined your entire life. And that is the heartbreak I lived through. This is the story of the night my aunt revealed the secret that shattered me, and what happened afterward, how I tried to rebuild myself, how I tried to forgive, and how I learned that even the most painful truths can lead us toward a quiet kind of strength. Let me start from the beginning. I grew up in a small, peaceful house on the edge of our town. Nothing dramatic ever happened there. At least that's what I believed. My family always felt warm, but uneven. There was love, yes, but also something else, a quiet tension that lived between the walls, especially when it came to me. I didn't grow up thinking I was unwanted, but I grew up feeling different, not excluded, just slightly outside the center of things. When I was younger, I used to think it was my personality. I was quieter than most children. I liked sitting alone, drawing or reading while other kids played outside. My mother would sometimes look at me with a long, thoughtful gaze, the kind that says, "I wish I could tell you something," but she never did. My father, on the other hand, was kind but distant, not cold, just reserved. He did his duties, provided for us, cared for us, but there was always a layer of silence between him and me, like a thin sheet of glass. I remember one evening when I was around 10 years old. We were all sitting at the dining table. My cousins were visiting that day, and everyone was laughing loudly, telling stories about school and teachers and silly mistakes. I laughed too, but I noticed something. Whenever I spoke, conversations would pause just a second, and the adults would listen very carefully, almost nervously, before continuing again. At that age, I thought maybe they were judging my grammar or correcting my manners. Now I know it was something else. My aunt, the one who later told me the truth, was always the warmest with me. She would bring me homemade sweets, braid my hair, or sit with me during family gatherings when I seemed too quiet. She used to tell me, "You're special," but not in the way adults usually say. Not in a playful, praising tone. No, she said it with a kind of sadness, a kind of longing. Of course, I didn't understand. My childhood continued quietly. Birthdays, school days, summer vacations, winter mornings. Everything looked normal on the outside. But every now and then there were moments that felt like puzzle pieces that didn't belong. Like the time my cousin asked, "Why don't you look like your father?" The room froze. My mother quickly changed the subject. Or when relatives visited and whispered in the kitchen while glancing at me. Or when I found an old envelope in my mother's drawer with no sender's name, only a date written at the top, the date of my birth, and the rest of the paper empty, no note, no explanation, just a blank sheet inside an envelope. I asked my mother about it. She simply said, "Some memories are better folded away." Her voice was gentle, but her eyes were tired. I didn't ask again. Growing up, these small moments created a quiet confusion inside me, a feeling that something about my life didn't fully match the story I was told. But I buried that feeling. I trusted my family. I believed silence meant normalcy. I believed love meant truth. I didn't know that sometimes love becomes the reason truth is hidden. Everything began to change when I turned 28. My mother fell ill that year, not suddenly but gradually. like a candle burning low, losing light day by day. I spent most evenings with her, helping her walk, feeding her soup, combing her hair the way she liked. She would hold my hand often, tighter than before, as if she was trying to say something she couldn't. One night, while I was adjusting her blanket, she whispered, "I wish I had been braver." I asked her what she meant. She closed her eyes. "You will know one day," she said. Those words stayed with me. They lived in my mind like a quiet echo. Around the same time, my aunt began visiting more often. She would bring fruits, medicines, and sometimes sit in the balcony with me when I needed a break. One evening, she looked at me with that same old sadness, the same gaze I used to catch when I was little. She said softly, "You remind me of someone." "Who?" I asked. She hesitated. Her fingers trembled slightly around her teacup. "A story for another day," she replied. But her voice cracked. These little cracks, these small tremors in the air began to grow stronger as months passed. Then my mother passed away peacefully in her sleep, holding my hand. The house felt emptier than ever before. My father sank into silence. Relatives came and went. My aunt stayed close, helping me through each ritual, each formality. But something was different about her now. She watched me more often. She started speaking sentences halfway, then stopping herself. Her hands trembled whenever I touched something of my mother's. Then came the night she knocked gently on my door and said, "Come to my room, there is something you must know." My aunt's voice that night was softer than usual, almost fragile. She stood outside my door for a moment, as if gathering the courage to speak. I nodded silently and followed her down the dim hallway. The house was quiet, the kind of quiet that feels heavy, like it's carrying something inside it. She walked slowly, her hands clasped in front of her, her shoulders slightly bent forward. I had never seen her look so small. Her room was warm, lit by a single lamp near the window. The light fell gently across her face, revealing lines I had never noticed before. Lines of worry, years of it. She closed the door behind us, and for a moment we just stood there, facing each other. I could hear the faint sound of the old wall clock ticking in the hallway. I could hear my own heartbeat. My aunt motioned for me to sit beside her on the bed. She held my hand, a gesture she used often, but this time her fingers were ice cold. She whispered, "I have carried something inside me for 30 years. I thought I could take it to my grave, but I see your mother when I look at you, and I know she would want you to hear this." My stomach tightened. I didn't know what she was about to say, but something inside me braced itself. She took a deep breath, but the words didn't come. Instead, her eyes filled with tears. She wiped them quickly, almost angrily, as if she didn't want to be seen crying. I reached for her hand, this time holding her the way she used to hold me. "Auntie, whatever it is, you can tell me." She looked at me with an expression that broke something inside me, a mixture of guilt, love, and fear. "I should have told you earlier," she whispered. "But your mother, she made me promise, a promise I kept, even when it hurt you, even when it hurt me." I blinked. "Promise? About what?" Again, she hesitated. Her lips parted slightly, then closed again. "Not yet." She wasn't ready yet. She shook her head softly and said, "Before I tell you anything, before I break the promise I made, I want you to understand something." Her voice trembled. "Your mother loved you more than life itself. She loved you in a way I've never seen anyone love a child. She protected you, even when that protection came with heavy burdens." I swallowed the rising lump in my throat. I wasn't ready for this. I wasn't ready for anything that questioned what I believed my whole life. But I nodded. "Okay, I'm listening," I whispered. She reached for her drawer and pulled out a small wooden box. The box was old, carved with tiny floral patterns. I had seen it before when I was young, but she never let anyone touch it. She placed it gently on her lap. "This box," she said softly, "contains pieces of the truth, letters, papers, memories we never allowed you to see." I stared at it, my fingers numb. Why would there be memories I wasn't allowed to see? What kind of memories needed to be hidden? My aunt continued, "After your mother passed, I knew the time was close. I knew you would start asking questions she never answered." She paused, wiping tears again. "And now the truth keeps me awake at night. I can't keep it anymore. I can't let you live in the dark." My breath grew shallow. I whispered, "What dark?" My aunt's expression changed, like a shadow passing through her eyes. "You always felt something, didn't you?" she said softly, "even as a little girl." I opened my mouth, but no words came, because she was right. I had always felt something, a quiet difference, a distance, a strange tension, a sense that I didn't fully fit the story I was given. My aunt continued, "There were moments when you asked questions, when you noticed things. My heart would stop, afraid you were too close to the truth." I felt tears burning behind my eyes. "What truth?" I whispered again, but my voice broke this time. My aunt didn't answer immediately. She reached out and touched my face gently, like she used to when comforting me as a child. "You lived your life with half a story," she said, "and you never knew the missing half was the part that defined everything." She opened the wooden box, very slowly. A soft creak echoed in the silent room. Inside, I saw old letters tied with a faded ribbon, a small silver locket, a folded piece of cloth, yellowed with age, and a photograph face down. My chest tightened so hard I could barely breathe. My aunt picked up the photograph but didn't turn it over yet. "Before I show you anything," she whispered, "there is more you must understand." She took another deep breath, this one shaky. "Your father loved you too, but not in the same way your mother did. Your father, he struggled with truth, with guilt, with fear, and that fear made him distant. He didn't know how to love you without remembering the one moment that changed our entire family forever." A silent tear rolled down my cheek. "What moment?" I asked, though my voice was barely audible. She didn't answer. Instead, she placed the photograph gently on the bed beside us, still face down. "We'll get to that," she said, "but I want you to tell me something first." I looked at her, confused. She asked, "Growing up, did you ever feel like something about your life didn't quite fit?" I closed my eyes, memories flashed through my mind, the blank envelope, the questions I never got answers to, the whispers in the kitchen, the paused conversations when I entered a room, the way my mother would stare at me sometimes, as if memorizing me. I opened my eyes again. "Yes," I whispered, "I felt it." My aunt nodded slowly. "That feeling came from a truth living in the walls of this house, a truth hidden in every silence." Her voice grew heavy. "Your mother wanted to tell you many times, but each time she tried, fear stopped her. Fear of losing you, fear of hurting you, fear of everything." She sighed deeply. "And I stayed silent because I promised her I would. But watching you live with unanswered questions, watching you grow up carrying a confusion you didn't understand, I broke a little each year." I could feel her hand trembling in mine. "Tell me," I begged quietly, but my voice cracked with fear. "Not yet," she whispered. My aunt kept holding the photograph against her chest, her fingers trembling around the edges. For a moment I wondered if she would change her mind again. Her breaths were uneven. Her lips trembled every time she tried to begin speaking. Silence filled the room, heavy, waiting, almost alive. Finally, she lowered the photograph and turned it so that the face side was toward me, but she didn't hand it over. She held it between us, her eyes watching my reaction before I even had the chance to react. It was a picture of a woman, a young woman. Her face was familiar in a way that struck me instantly, like a cold wave crashing against my chest. Her eyes were shaped like mine. Her smile was soft, a smile I had seen before in my own mirror. Her hair fell the same way mine did when I was younger. I froze. My lips parted, but no sound came out. I looked at the picture again, studying every line, every curve, every small detail that felt disturbingly familiar. My aunt whispered softly, "You see it, don't you?" I nodded, barely. My throat felt tight, as if someone was pressing a hand over it. "She looks like me," I breathed. My aunt nodded. Then she said 5 words that broke the world beneath me. "This woman is your mother." For a moment I didn't understand. I blinked. I stared at her. I looked back at the picture. The room felt blurry, like the air had thickened. "My mother?" I repeated, my voice shaking. She nodded again, slowly, painfully. I shook my head. No, that's not possible. My mother," my aunt gently cut me off. "The woman you called mother your whole life, she loved you deeply, but she did not give birth to you." The words felt unreal, wrong, impossible. I felt something rise in my chest, confusion, disbelief, fear. "What are you saying?" I whispered, my voice cracking. "How can she not be my mother? She raised me, she held me, Yes," my aunt said, tears forming again. "She raised you from the day you came into this world. She loved you more than anyone ever could, but she did not carry you in her womb." I looked at the picture again. The woman's eyes seemed to stare straight into mine, the same shape, the same glow, the same softness, a softness I had always thought came from my mother. My aunt placed a hand on mine. "You were adopted," she said gently. The room went silent. Adopted. The word echoed in my head, bouncing against every memory I had ever lived. Adopted. I didn't know whether to cry, scream, deny, or simply collapse. My breath came in shallow bursts. "But why? Why didn't they tell me?" I whispered. "Why would they hide something like this?" My aunt closed her eyes as if the answer itself hurt her. It was a decision made out of fear and love, a complicated love. She took a deep breath and began the story they hid. 30 years ago," she said softly, "your biological mother, the woman in this photograph, came to us. She was young, frightened, alone." I stared at my aunt, listening with a trembling heart. "She was pregnant with you," my aunt continued, "but she had no support, no family to turn to, no home that welcomed her. She arrived at our house one rainy night, soaking wet, shivering, and carrying nothing but the clothes on her back." My aunt paused, swallowing hard. "She was my closest friend," she whispered, "more like a sister than anything else." My heart tightened. "She begged us not to send her away. She begged for help. And your mother, the woman who raised you, she agreed without hesitation. She brought her inside, she fed her, she cared for her, and when the time came, she stayed by her side when she gave birth." A tear rolled down my aunt's cheek. "When you were born, she held you before anyone else. She looked at you, and something inside her changed. Something deep. She fell in love with you instantly." My breath caught in my throat. "She couldn't have children of her own," my aunt said softly. "And for years, she prayed for a child, but it never happened." I felt the world dim around me. "Your biological mother." My aunt continued. "She was struggling with her own battles. She wasn't ready. She felt she couldn't give you the life you deserved. She wanted you to be safe, loved, protected." My aunt wiped her eyes. "So she asked us, begged us, to raise you." I stared at her, numb. "I don't understand," I whispered. "Why didn't they just tell me? Why hide something like this for so many years?" My aunt sighed, her voice trembling. "Because your biological mother made one request," she said. "She made us promise never to tell you. She believed that knowing the truth might make you feel unwanted, abandoned, or unsure of your place." I felt tears spill from my eyes. "But I had a right to know," I whispered, my voice breaking. "Yes," she said gently, "you did, and your mother, the one who raised you. She wanted to tell you many times, but every time she tried, she feared you would think she wasn't your real mother." My chest ached. "She was afraid of losing your love," my aunt whispered. "Afraid you would look at her differently. Afraid you would search for the woman who gave birth to you and forget the woman who raised you." I covered my mouth with my hand, trying to hold in the sob rising inside me. My aunt continued, her voice soft but steady. "And after your biological mother left, she disappeared. No address, no contact, nothing. We tried to find her. Your mother wanted to find her, to show her how beautifully you were growing, but she was gone." I stared at the floor, tears falling silently onto my hands. "She left?" I asked, barely audible. "Yes," my aunt whispered. "She left the town the very next day. She didn't want to confuse your life. She didn't want to return and risk breaking the bond you were forming with your mother." I shook my head slowly. Everything felt unreal. "And the locket?" I asked shakily. My aunt nodded. "The locket belonged to her. It originally had your newborn photo inside it. She carried it for months before giving it to your mother, but the day she left town, she removed the picture and kept it." "Why?" I whispered. "Because she said she needed something of you, and she wanted your mother to have something too, something to hold on to, something to keep her connected to the moment you were born." I wiped my face, trembling. "So, the woman I grew up calling mother, she wasn't my real mother?" My aunt's expression softened with a pain I will never forget. "She was your real mother," she said firmly, "in every way that matters. She gave her heart for you, she raised you, she taught you, she protected you, she loved you with a love deeper than anything I've ever seen." I cried quietly, my shoulders shaking. "But she didn't give birth to you," my aunt continued gently, "and that is the part she was afraid to tell you. She feared that someday you might want the woman in the picture more than the woman who held your hand every night." My voice broke completely. "That would never happen." My aunt placed a comforting hand on my back. "I know," she whispered, "and she knew too, but fear can silence even the bravest hearts." The moment that shattered me, my aunt finally handed me the photograph. My hands trembled as I held it. The edges were worn, the colors had faded slightly, but the face was clear, my face, or the face I might have had she raised me. I pressed the photo against my chest and sobbed, not out of anger but out of a deep, aching grief. Grief for the truth, grief for the years of confusion, grief for the woman who raised me, who carried this secret alone for so long, and grief for the woman I had never known. My aunt wrapped her arms around me and whispered, "I'm so sorry, I should have told you sooner, but I made a promise I didn't know how to break." I cried into her shoulder. "It's not your fault," I whispered, but the truth still hurt. It hurt in a way I didn't know how to describe. Everything I believed, everything I thought I understood about my life, had cracked open in one night, and standing in the middle of that brokenness, I didn't know who I was anymore. I don't remember how long I cried in her arms. Time didn't feel real. The room around me faded into nothing, only the photograph in my hands and the weight of the truth in my chest remained. When the tears finally slowed, I sat up slowly, wiping my face with the sleeve of my sweater. My aunt didn't rush me. She didn't speak. She just sat there beside me, her presence steady and warm, like she had done when I was a child scared of thunderstorms. I looked at the photograph again, tracing the woman's face with my thumb. "Who was she?" I asked softly. My voice sounded tired, smaller than usual. My aunt took a deep breath and folded her hands in her lap. "Her name was Amina," she said gently. "She was 24 when she came to us, quiet, kind, but carrying a brokenness she never spoke about." The name felt strange on my tongue. A part of me wanted to say it aloud. Another part of me was afraid to. "What happened to her?" I whispered. My aunt sighed, her eyes drifting toward the window. "She grew up in a strict home, very strict. Her parents had plans for her life, plans she didn't want. When she became pregnant, everything collapsed. Her family rejected her. She had nowhere to go, no money, no support. She ran away from everything she knew." I felt a heaviness in my stomach. "She was alone when she arrived at our door?" I asked. "Yes," my aunt whispered. "She had walked for miles. She was exhausted, scared, and she knew she couldn't raise a child on her own." I pressed my lips together, trying to imagine a young woman alone, carrying a child, desperately looking for a safe place. "What about my father?" I asked quietly. "Do we know anything about him?" My aunt hesitated. "Amina never spoke about him," she said. "Not once. We asked, but she would always shake her head. She said the story was too painful. She said the only thing that mattered was giving you a chance at life." I nodded slowly, though the ache in my chest grew tighter. "So she left me because she cared?" The words felt strange, almost contradictory. My aunt nodded. "Yes, she left because she believed your mother, the one who raised you, could give you a better life." Silence filled the room again. I stared at my hands. "I don't know what to feel," I whispered. "I feel sad, I feel angry, I feel grateful, I feel abandoned, I feel everything." My aunt reached over and squeezed my hand gently. "That's how truth works," she said softly. "It doesn't come with one feeling. It comes with many. It takes time to understand." I nodded, tears rising again. After a long moment, I asked, "Did she ever want me back? Did she ever ask about me?" My aunt shook her head slowly. "We never heard from her again. Your mother searched for her quietly and in her own way. But Amina disappeared. We don't know where she went. We don't know if she started a new life somewhere. We don't even know if she is still alive." The thought hit me like a wave of cold water. Somewhere out there, the woman who brought me into this world might still be alive. Or she might not. I didn't know what was worse, the hope or the uncertainty. My aunt looked at me with soft eyes. "I know this hurts," she said. "I know it shakes everything you believed, but listen to me carefully." She lifted my chin gently so I would look at her. "You were never unwanted. You were never abandoned. You were loved twice, by the woman who gave you life and by the woman who raised you." A fresh tear rolled down my cheek. My aunt wiped it gently. "Your mother, the one who raised you, she made your life her purpose. She loved you so deeply it scared her enough to keep the secret. She feared losing you more than anything." I swallowed hard, my throat tight. "I wish she told me," I whispered. My aunt nodded with a sad smile. She wished the same. On her last night she almost said it, but she was afraid you would see the truth as betrayal. I lowered my head. "I wouldn't have." "She knew that," my aunt said. "But fear is a powerful thing, especially when it comes to love, searching for myself." The days after the secret were slow, heavy, and confusing. I moved through the house like a quiet shadow, touching pieces of my childhood, the old bookshelf, the kitchen table, the photo frames, and wondering which parts of my life were still the same. Every object felt different. Every memory felt like it had split into two versions, the version I remembered and the version that lived behind closed doors. Sometimes I sat on my bed with a photograph in my hands, staring at the face of the woman who looked so much like me. Other times I found myself holding the locket, empty, cold, carrying a silence that now made sense. And sometimes late at night I just cried. Not because I didn't love the mother who raised me, not because I didn't appreciate everything she gave me. I cried because identity is fragile. And once it cracks, it takes time to find all the pieces again. My father tried to speak to me once, only once. He came to my room, stood by the door, and said my name softly. I looked up. He seemed older, smaller, tired. He said, "Your mother wanted to protect you. We both did." I didn't respond. He swallowed hard. "I know I wasn't always the father you needed," he whispered, "but I loved you. I still do." I nodded weakly. He stepped into the room slowly. "Your mother made me promise not to tell you, but I want you to know I didn't stay distant because you weren't mine. I stayed distant because I was afraid." "Afraid of what?" I whispered. He sighed. "Afraid I wouldn't be enough." His voice cracked. "Afraid you would someday ask about your real father, and I wouldn't know how to answer." I felt tears blur my vision again. He took a shaky breath. "You were the best thing that ever happened to us, even if you didn't come from us." He left before I could respond, but his words stayed with me for days, finding the strength to understand. Weeks passed. The truth didn't get lighter, but it began to settle, like dust after a storm. I started to talk with my aunt more often. She showed me letters Amina had written but never sent, simple, small letters. "I hope she is healthy. I hope she smiles. Please tell her she is loved." Each letter was short, handwritten, trembling. Some were stained with tears. I read them slowly, tracing each line with my fingers. My aunt sat beside me, sometimes explaining the moments Amina spent in our home. Her quiet laughter, her gentle voice, her habit of looking at the moon every night as if speaking to it. One evening, my aunt said something that stayed with me. She said, "The heart has room for more than one truth, more than one mother, more than one beginning." I asked quietly, "Do you think she ever forgave herself, Amina?" My aunt smiled sadly. "I think she hoped one day you would forgive her." I looked at the letters again. Each one carried a love that was afraid to exist, but existed anyway. "I don't hate her," I whispered. "I don't even feel angry at her. I just wish she told me herself." My aunt nodded. "I wish that too." Rebuilding what was broken. Healing didn't happen in one moment. It happened slowly, in the quiet, in the tears, in the long conversations with my aunt, in the memories of my mother, the one who raised me, that now felt even more precious. I visited her grave more often. Sometimes I sat there and read her favorite poems. Sometimes I cried, but mostly I talked to her. I told her I loved her. I told her I wasn't angry. I told her I understood why she stayed silent. And I told her that no truth, not even this one, could change the love between us. The more I spoke to her, the lighter my heart felt. It was as if she heard every word, as if she sat beside me holding my hand the way she used to, the final step toward acceptance. One evening I sat alone with the photograph and the locket. For a long time I simply looked at them, thinking about the two women whose love shaped my life in completely different ways. A mother who carried me, and a mother who raised me. Two stories, two sacrifices, two kinds of love. I opened the locket one last time, still empty, still waiting. After a long breath, I slipped the photograph, a tiny copy my aunt helped me cut, inside the locket. I closed it gently. For the first time, the locket felt complete, and so did I. In the days that followed, life didn't suddenly change. The world didn't offer any grand sign, no sudden clarity, no instant peace. Instead, healing came slowly. Step by step, breath by breath, thought by thought. One morning, I woke before the sun. The air was cool, and a soft light touched the curtains. I held the locket in my hands, warm now from being carried close to my heart, and I felt something I hadn't felt since that night my aunt told me the truth. I felt calm, not healed, not whole, but calm, as if my heart had finally accepted that some questions in life don't get perfect answers. Some truths don't come wrapped in clarity. And some stories simply begin before we are ready to understand them. I walked to the balcony and sat down slowly. The sky was turning pale, the first breath of morning rising above the rooftops. Birds were waking, the world was beginning again, and for the first time in weeks, I didn't feel lost. I didn't feel broken. I didn't feel like the ground beneath me was shifting. I simply felt present. My aunt joined me a little later. She sat beside me quietly, the way she always did when words weren't needed. After a long silence, she said, "You're stronger than you think." I smiled faintly. "Some days I don't feel strong at all." "That's when you're strongest," she replied gently. "When you face the truth even when it hurts." I didn't respond, I just let her words settle. We watched the sunrise together. The sky turned shades of orange and soft gold, spreading warmth across the sleeping world. It felt like a new beginning, not dramatic, not loud, just a quiet shift inside me, a gentle acceptance, understanding my place in two stories. Over the next few weeks I spent time reflecting, not on what I lost but on what I gained. I realized that I wasn't the child of one woman, I was the child of two. One gave me life, the other gave me a home. One brought me into the world, the other taught me how to live in it. One carried me for 9 months, the other carried me for 30 years. And both, in their own imperfect, silent human ways, loved me. That truth no longer felt painful. It felt precious. It felt like something I could hold without fear. I still didn't know where Amina was, whether she was alive, whether she ever looked back, whether she ever wondered what became of her child. But I stopped seeing her as someone who abandoned me. I began to see her as someone who was hurting, someone who made a choice out of fear and love at the same time. And that understanding brought peace, a quiet peace, the kind that doesn't shout, the kind that feels like a soft hand resting on your shoulder. The last conversation with my aunt. One night, weeks after the truth was revealed, I sat beside my aunt again. Her room was warm. The lamp glowed softly. She looked at me and said, "Do you regret knowing?" I thought about it, I really thought, and I shook my head. "No," I whispered. "It hurt, but it also healed something I didn't know was broken. I think I needed the truth, even if it arrived late." She nodded slowly, relief washing over her face. "I'm glad," she said softly. "I carried this secret for so long. I feared it would destroy you. But I see now it helped you find yourself." I reached for her hand. "You did the right thing telling me." She smiled with tired eyes. "No, my dear, I should have told you years ago, but I am grateful you have forgiven the silence, even if you haven't forgotten it." I squeezed her hand. "Some silences are made of love," I whispered. She closed her eyes, a quiet tear rolling down her cheek. "And some truths," she said, "are made of loss." "And both," I whispered back, "become who we are." A quiet lesson I carry now. Life didn't magically fix itself after the truth, but my heart learned how to breathe again, and in that slow return to myself, I found a lesson I carry everywhere now. Sometimes, the truth doesn't break us. It breaks the illusions that were holding us back. Some truths hurt not because they are wrong, but because they show us how human love really is. Flawed, quiet, terrified, brave, and often hidden, my story didn't become simpler after the secret. It became deeper. I learned that love isn't always loud or clear. Sometimes love is a woman raising a child she didn't give birth to. Sometimes love is a young mother walking away so her child can have a better future. Sometimes love is an aunt carrying a secret that isn't hers to reveal. And sometimes, love is the moment you choose to forgive the past so you can live the present. I still keep the photograph inside the locket. Every night before I sleep, I hold it in my hands for a moment. Not with sadness, but with gratitude. Gratitude for the mother who raised me, gratitude for the mother who brought me into this world, gratitude for the aunt who finally gave me the truth, gratitude for the heart that learned to survive all of it. And sometimes, when the house is quiet and the night feels gentle, I whisper into the darkness, "I'm okay now, I know who I am, and I am loved in more than one way." Pain brought the truth into my life, truth brought clarity, clarity brought healing, and healing brought a different kind of love. A mature, quiet love that doesn't depend on a perfect story. Now, when I think of my childhood, I don't see lies. I see love, imperfect, frightened, human love, trying its best. When I think of Amina, I don't feel abandoned. I feel connected to a woman I may never meet, but who gave me my first breath. When I think of my mother, I feel full, because now I know just how deeply she chose me, every single day. And when I think of myself, I feel strong, because the night my aunt revealed the secret that shattered me was also the night I finally found myself.